Hello guys, and welcome to the Basics and Movement. This is the first installment of my PvP learning series. I really hope you guys enjoy this video. We're going to go over the basics of PvP as well as movement and why it's so important. So let's move on. So let's talk about the basics. Let's begin at the beginning. You see how I hucked a javelin at that guy and it knocked him onto his back. Now, we're going to start with stuns. What are stuns? Well, stuns is simply a way of knocking your opponent over in order to prevent them from being able to cast anything. So if you knock them, if you hit your opponent with a stun, what it does is it puts them in a stun state, meaning that unless they break out of the stun by clicking the bash button, they will not be able to perform any actions. So there's lots of different stuns in the game. You can apply a stun to someone once every 7 seconds, and then they are given 7 seconds of stun immunity. The other two ways to kind of hamper down a target or get yourself kind of held down is to be immobilized or snared. So an immobilization prevents you from moving around. And what a snare does is it decreases your current movement speed. So as you can see here, my character is totally able to move around, so I'm not immobilized. In order to tell if you've been immobilized, you'll be able to continue to cast, but you will not be able to move around. In order to break and immobilize, you can either dodge roll or use a purifying effect to remove the immobilize. And snare is very similar in the fashion. So if you get hit by a snare, you either have to wait out the duration of the snare or you have to use a purifying effect in order to break it. Okay, so let's get a visual idea of what this looks like in-game. So you see me just plugging at this guy here. The Nightblade comes up on the right. What he's going to do is he's going to cast Fear as soon as I get next to him. Do you see how my entire bar on the bottom gets all blacked out? Well, that means I've been stunned, and I no longer have any control over my character. In order to break it, I use bash, which is my right and left click mouse buttons, to break out of it, and then I am free. Now what you see is the rings floating around my character's foot. This represents my character's current stun immunity, meaning that I am now immune to being stunned as long as I have those rings around my feet. You see that it only lasted for a few seconds before I get back up top here. This guy goes for the res here. Now something important for PvP is that you can use your bash to interrupt any kind of channeled ability. Now this does not just include resing, this can include other kinds of channeled abilities as well, but resing is one of the important ones that you want to interrupt, so anything that you kill can't get back up if a friend tries to pick him up. Alright guys, so we're just going to continue along this clip here. I'm going to do my best to prevent these guys from resing, but ultimately there's too many up there for me to deal with, so I just keep dinking around with them, but nothing's going to really come out of it. So you see I take another stun here, I quickly break it, and I roll away down the hill. I mistime my roll just a little bit, take a bit of fall damage, but it is okay. And as you can see here, I take a hit from a Nightblade's crippling grasp. So now you see how I turn my character and she's not moving at all. This means that I've been immobilized. Now the immobilization on this ability only lasts for about 2 seconds. So you can see that I'm now able to move around, but you can see a little bit of mist swirling around at my feet. It's not the same as stun immunity, it's just a little bit fainter. This means that I have at least one snare on my character, lowering my movement speed. So in order to remove the snare that I just took there, I could have just punched out my purifying ritual, but because I was in a rather safe location, I decided I would just wait out the duration of both the snare and the immobilize. Alright guys, so let's move on to movement. This is such an important part of PvP in this game. Now we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to use a few different terms here. We're going to use line of sight, which is preventing an enemy from being able to directly see your character, and we're going to use terrain. And that's pretty much how we're going to stay alive using movement in this game. You can see that my good friend Mad Shadow Man here got attacked by this big group of bumblebees. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to weave in around with him in my mist form. Using our combined mist forms together, both immune to being stunned or snared, we can really prevent these guys from focusing on a single target. I peel off to the side here, taking away from this group's line of focus. Now this is an important part of movement here, just that quick peel to the side, and then all of a sudden I'm left in this rather larger scale fight without anybody attacking me, and I'm kind of just okay to attack this guy in the flag. Mad Shadow Man does his full loop around. He completely lost these guys in that tower, and now we're going to go back in to get them. So something to keep in mind about movement here is that what you want to do is use your movement in a way to kind of always get the drop on your opponent. So you can see that I'm going to run around the corner here. We're heavily outnumbered. The first thing I'm going to do is bow heavy attack a target into my ultimate, making sure that I get the drop on these two guys. So what that does is it allows me to put a lot more burst damage into him. You see I take that guy down really fast. It allows me to put a lot of damage into him while he is by himself and separated from his group. So all we're going to do here is just really make use of line of sight and terrain. Be very conscientious of who's around us and who isn't. So you can see that we're just kind of hugging this doorway. We're not going to peek into the middle of the doorway for too long, and this is because we don't want too many people to see us. You can see how they're all piling up around the bottom there without we don't want too many people to see us at the same time, so we get knocked down real fast. And you can see here that by using these kind of movement techniques, we're running in circles around this tower, just kind of weaving around. We're able to fight this larger group of players that outnumbers us at least 2 to 1, except we're able to beat them just because we can outmaneuver these guys. And let's move on to the next clip, and I'll show you guys a little bit more of using your snares and immobilizes in order to survive with movement. And here it is. So in this clip here, I'm actually on my Stamina Sorcerer. This is a fun build because this is a 100% movement-based build. Now, a lot of builds in this game aren't as fast as what I'm playing here, as in you won't be able to move around a battlefield as quickly, but that being said, movement's still very important. I would actually go to say the slower your character is, the more important movement becomes, because then you have less kind of areas that you're safe to move around. You have to be very conscientious of what's close to you and what's not, because if you're a slow character, you won't be able to make it to cover quickly from a large group of players. So as you can see here, I actually managed to just streak through the Zerg and rotate around this rock, fighting just this one guy, and he can't even touch me. I'm just bouncing around him, totally trolling him. I'm using a bunch of different movement-based abilities that have stuns mixed into them. We've got Magnum Shot there that's going to knock him back and disorient him, so he has to break out of it, or I have to attack him again for him to be free from that stun. And then also I'm using Streak on the Sorcerer ability. And Streak is really good because it is a big movement skill. It's going to teleport you a long distance, and it's going to stun everything through that teleport distance. So you can see here that me and this guy, we're both in medium armor. So we're both playing very strong around this rock. We both know that, you know, this will be a rather lengthy fight between the two of us, as long as we continue to stay around this rock, just due to the fact that we can both really outmaneuver each other here. He gets a little bit lower, another EP shows up, and we manage to get him, and here is the part of the clip that I really wanted to show you guys. This is movement in this game when you really learn to use it right. You can see here that I've got my Streak, I've got my Magnum Shot, and then finally I've got my last bow ability, the AoE Bombard. The Bombard AoE ability, anyone that I hit with it is going to be immobilized. So what I'm doing here is I'm just bouncing around the rock, waiting for these guys to kind of stack up. I streak through them there, and you see that I instantly follow it up with a Bombard, and they're both immobilized right after the stun that they just took. So what this does is it buys me a lot of time, and it pretty much buys me enough time until my next streak, when their immunity's down. I streak through that group of 4 players, stunning all of them, follow it up with a Bombard just to hold them in spot again. And you can see just how annoying I can be against a group of players here. They do manage to take me down. They end up getting soul assaulted and hit with a bunch of different Jesus beams, and these undodgeable effects are just too much for my character. And this brings us to our last piece in this learning section, guys. We're going to talk about movement and stealth. So stealth is an incredibly powerful piece of equipment in PvP. If you are invisible, nobody knows where you are, which can allow you to always have the jump on a group of players. So you see here, I just kind of engage with these guys here. I engage from stealth. I take one of them down real quick, and they all jump on top of me. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate around the keep thing, hugging the side of it. I want to really make sure there's as little contact as possible between me and the ranged abilities of my opponents. So I actually get a little lucky. There's some EP players here, and I do a quick dive into that guy, going for the res to take him down. So here's the great part of this clip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to creep up behind this group of yellow players on this little rock face here. They're all kind of beaten down, one poor EP guy, but he's very tanky. He's doing a great job of just not dying. I sneak up behind them and I go for a heavy attack, crit rush, quickly manage to gank this guy down. Keep in mind I am playing a pretty gank-friendly build. It's very good at taking down targets from stealth. And then I'm going to quickly kite behind this rock. I don't want to sit in where I just got my kill because I know if I sit there I'm going to get smacked on really good here. And oh yes, we love Clouding Swarm. Rest in peace, Clouding Swarm, guys. But here we go. I go for the Clouding Swarm to try to take that guy down, but it doesn't work. And what I end up doing is I pull a lot of focus onto me, which allows the other EP players coming over the hill to really take advantage of these guys in a quite out of position area here. They're in the middle of our siege, and there you have it. So the idea with this clip here was showing that if you use your movement right, you can really encircle a group of players and almost trap them amongst your own players. Anyhow, guys, I really hope you liked this video. I really hope you guys learned a little bit or at least enjoyed the clips. If you have any questions for me, feel free to ask in that description section. As always, guys, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.